I wanted to film this to talk about my experience with the drug ZOLOFT. ZOLOFT is mostly prescribed for anxiety and depression, but there are a few other uses for it. And I have been on ZOLOFT for just over a year now, a year and a couple months. And I originally started it for anxiety. And just to start, I mean, usually if you're going to be prescribed a drug for anxiety or depression or something like that, you have to try different forms of therapy first. I think most doctors agree that a drug shouldn't be your first option. So I did years of behavioral cognitive therapy. I did biofeedback. I did a lot of different things before we decided that a drug was necessary to help with my anxiety. So when I first started, I was on 25 milligrams for a week, and then to kind of get my body adjusted to this drug, and so they put me on 25 for a week, and then moved it up to 50 after that week. And I was on 50 milligrams for, I want to say, a few months. So when you get prescribed these drugs, it's usually through a psychiatrist's office, and they kind of expect that you are also in therapy with it. So the drug is not supposed to be like the fix-all for your issues. You're still supposed to be in therapy with the drug, because there are side effects to it. It can make your anxiety worse, it can make your depression worse. But anyway, when you see this psychiatrist, you usually go back every couple months. They're the ones who prescribe it. They usually won't give you more than 3 months at a time. And they also, want to check in and make sure that it's still working for you. So when I went back, I ended up moving my dose up to 75 milligrams. And that was mostly because my anxiety was better, but it hadn't gone away. I wasn't making the progress that I wanted to. And so I went on 75, and just to kind of back up a little bit, when I first started, nobody told me about any side effects. Nobody told me about the dependency. So basically, antidepressants are not supposed to be habit forming, so they're technically not addictive, but they do, in this particular drug ZOLOFT, changes your body chemistry, which I think most of them do. And you will start to notice that if you don't take it, you're going to be in a lot of pain. So like I said, when I first started, I was on 50, and the immediate side effects were I was really drowsy all the time. I didn't eat very much. I lost a lot of weight when I first started it. And I didn't notice my anxiety getting higher, but I did notice my emotions were very flat. Like, I was not very excited, I was not very happy, I wasn't very sad, I was just kind of nothing. Which, once you get used to it, that usually goes away, which I was thankful for, because it was kind of exhausting to just not have any emotions about anything. But those side effects ended up going away, and I didn't really notice the dependency until I moved up to 100 grams, milligrams, which was after a couple months of being on 75. And I moved up because once again, it was not doing everything that I wanted it to. And for the most part, I think all psychiatrists kind of let you decide if it's working like you want it to or not. You know, I think if you say I want to go up or I want to go down, they'll accommodate what you want. And so I ended up going up to 100 milligrams, and around that time I started suffering from really bad insomnia, and you know, the ZOLOFT is not supposed to cause insomnia, so that I don't think that had anything to do with it, but I did have a really hard time sleeping. I would do like maybe 3 to 4 hours a night. Sometimes I wouldn't sleep at all. You know, I'd go a couple of days without any sleep, and for someone who's anxious or depressed or, you know, anything like that, losing sleep makes it 100 times worse. So, so my doctor prescribed me a drug called trazodone, which is basically a sedative, and you can mix this with ZOLOFT. There are a lot of drugs that you can't mix with ZOLOFT, which once again, I was not told these things, so you kind of have to do your own research. But you know, there are certain anti-inflammatory drugs you can't mix. There's certain cold medicines you can't mix, mostly because it will, you know, decrease the effectiveness of ZOLOFT. But also there can be some other health issues that arise from mixing ZOLOFT with certain drugs. And but anyway, this sleep drug was able to be mixed with ZOLOFT, and it worked. It definitely worked. It knocked me out. But the bad thing about it was that I would wake up and I would just be drowsy for like hours, and it was like, you know, like I couldn't get anything done. I couldn't focus. I was just so tired that that I couldn't do anything. And the half-life on trazodone is 7 hours. So for someone who's used to sleeping 3 or 4 hours, you know, I would take this drug and maybe get 6. And if you take it right before you go to bed, you know, the drug is still in your system after 7 hours, and then it reduces to half, and so on. So it, you know, it worked, but I quickly stopped taking that just because, you know, I couldn't go to work, I couldn't go to school, I couldn't do anything without like falling asleep in the middle of it. So so I stopped doing that, and I decided to start a drug that is supposed to reduce nightmares, because that was a big part of my insomnia was having nightmares. And this one was actually supposed to lower your blood pressure, and reducing nightmares was just a side effect from it. And that one did work really well, and I still take that one. It's not a high dose. That one is not, you know, there is no dependency on it. You just kind of take it when you need it, and that's it. So I was on 100 milligrams for a few months, and I moved up to 150, and 200 is like pretty much the highest dose that they'll give you for ZOLOFT. And you know, once you get there, you kind of cap out, and they don't want to put you on any higher. And when I got to 150, I remember having a really hard time adjusting to it. I was like extremely anxious, you know, just very like fidgety all the time. I couldn't sit still. I couldn't focus on anything. I didn't want to go out in public. I just wanted to, you know, like sleep and avoid people and my work and everything. And so I did really have a hard time when I first adjusted. I would like to blame it on the fact that I went from, you know, a 50 milligram difference when I was used to 25, but I'm really not sure. I mean, like I said, ZOLOFT can increase your anxiety, and, you know, if you're worried about that, I think it's just, if the side effects are better than how you're currently feeling, then I would do it. But when I started taking 150 milligrams, I seriously noticed the withdrawal, that I would go through if I forgot to take it or, you know, took it too late. And when I was on 100, I noticed it a little bit, but it could be days before I would notice it. Whereas once I started 150, I was like, I take mine in the morning, and if I took it in the afternoon, I would notice it. And the withdrawal is absolutely god awful. It is so painful. You get like these really weird like brain zaps, like every few minutes, and you can't eat. I mean, like, you can't sleep. You're just in a lot of pain. And I was not aware that that was a possibility on ZOLOFT, and I was definitely not happy when I found out about that. You know, I did my own research and kind of wanted to get off of it because of that. And when I found out, you know, kind of the process of getting off of ZOLOFT, I quickly got rid of that idea because, you know, everyone says it's really painful. It's a very long process to wean yourself off of ZOLOFT. And yeah, so I still struggle with that. I definitely cannot miss a day. If I miss a day, I am pretty much out of commission for that day until I take it again. You know, I still think that the benefits outweigh, you know, all the bad things that come with ZOLOFT, but I think that it definitely should be a last resort for someone who has anxiety or depression. I think that getting yourself on a drug that quite literally changes the composition of, you know, the chemicals in your body is not something that should be taken lightly, and I think it's something that you should do your research on. You know, they prescribed ZOLOFT in particular because it is supposed to be one that, you know, isn't habit forming, and but it, you know, is still strong enough at the same time to help with anxiety. And I was attracted to it simply because it does change, you know, natural neurotransmitters in your body. I didn't want something unnatural. But like I said, once you start it, your body will crave it, and it is really hard to not become dependent on it. I don't really know that that's possible to not become dependent on it. And actually, after I started the 150, I know I had mentioned before that I had a hard time focusing on a lot of things, and was very fidgety. They put me on Adderall, and Adderall is typically prescribed for ADHD, ADD, and they couldn't they couldn't really figure out if my ADHD symptoms were because of anxiety or if they were just, I literally have ADHD on its own. And Adderall is something that you can mix with ZOLOFT, and it mixes fine. I haven't had any issues with it. But like I said, when you start this drug, it can change parts of your mood, it can change your anxiety, it can change your depression, which then can, you know, lead to more issues that, you know, may not have been there, or maybe they were there all along and it just kind of brought them out. But yeah, I'm still currently on 150 milligrams. I've been on it for a long time now, probably 4 or 5 months. I don't plan on going any higher. I think that you know, my goal as of right now is to get off of it, just because you know, like I said, the withdrawal is absolutely awful. If I had known about it, I probably never would have started it. It really is that bad. It's extremely painful. You're very anxious. You can't focus on anything. You're very just like, you know, you're just not feeling good. And it's not something that like you are like craving the ZOLOFT. It's not like an addiction. It's just you're starving your body of this drug that it needs now to function normally. So I think my plan of action is to kind of just you know, find a way to get off of it as painless as possible, and yeah, and you know, I think that it has done a lot of really good things for my anxiety. I think that it, you know, I do a lot of things now that I never would have been able to, say, a year and a half ago. But I think that, you know, starting a drug, it really is a big commitment that people don't realize. I started it when I was 18. I had just turned 18, and I'm currently 19. And you know, who knows how long I'm going to be on it.